Hey, welcome to Deep Dive Daily. So today we're jumping into this really incredible story from India. It's a huge constitutional power struggle. We're talking about a doctrine that was literally invented by judges to guard the very soul of their nation's constitution. So yeah, let's get right into it.
Think about this for a second. It really comes down to this one massive question. Can a government, any government really, change the fundamental soul of a nation's constitution? I mean, can they just erase the core principles if they have enough votes? That's the conflict, the big idea we're digging into. All right, so who are the main players in this decades-long drama? Well, you've got two titans of Indian democracy going head-to-head. On one side, you have the parliament, the voice of the people, and on the other, the Supreme Court, which sees itself as the ultimate guardian of the Constitution. And trust me, their clash, it was going to redefine the very limits of power in India. So here's a quick roadmap of what we're about to cover. This isn't just a list of dates, it's the highlight reel of this constitutional tug-of-war. You can see it right there, a constant back and forth, a real legal boxing match between Parliament and the Supreme Court. We're going to walk through each of these moments, kicking things off way back in 1951. Okay, let's rewind to the beginning. Back in 1951, in the early days of the Republic, the Supreme Court's stance was actually pretty simple. In this case, Shankari Prasad, they basically ruled that Parliament had the power to amend any part of the Constitution. And yeah, that included these super important fundamental rights. The court's message was loud and clear. Parliament, you've got the green light. But then, things got interesting. Fast forward 16 years to 1967. In a case called Golak Nath, the Supreme Court did a complete 180. They said, whoa, hold on a minute. Those fundamental rights, they're transcendental and immutable, basically they're sacred, and Parliament cannot touch them. Now you can imagine, Parliament was not happy about this. They didn't just sit back, they struck back, hard. In 1971, they passed the 24th Amendment, which pretty much screamed, oh yes, we can amend any part of the Constitution, including those rights. The battle lines were officially drawn. So with this massive conflict brewing, the stage was set for what might just be the most important constitutional case in India's entire history. We're talking about the Kesavananda Bharati case in 1973. This is the moment, right here, where everything changed. Out of all that chaos, something brand new and incredibly powerful was about to be born.
And here it is. The solution the court came up with was, it was kind of genius. It was this perfect compromise. They said, okay, Parliament, you can amend the Constitution. Yes, you can even amend the fundamental rights. But, and this is a huge but, you cannot alter or destroy the basic structure of the Constitution. It's like saying you can renovate a house, you can paint the walls, you can move furniture, but you are not allowed to touch the foundation. You can't knock down the load-bearing walls.
But wait, the story isn't over yet. Not by a long shot. This basic structure idea was still brand new, still fragile, and it was about to face one last, all-out assault from a parliament that was absolutely determined to prove it had the final say. This was going to be the ultimate stress test for the new doctrine.
So, in 1976, Parliament went for the knockout punch. They passed the 42nd Amendment, and it was blunt. It basically said Parliament's power to amend is unlimited, and no court can ever question it. Talk about throwing down the gauntlet. But 4 years later, in the Minerva Mills case, the Supreme Court picked that gauntlet right up. They stood firm and struck down that part of the amendment. Their argument? The court's own power to review laws, what's called judicial review, is itself a basic feature of the Constitution. You can't take that away. And the logic the court used here is just so elegant. This quote from the Minerva Mills ruling really says it all. The whole point is that the Constitution gave Parliament a limited power to make changes. So how can it use that limited power to give itself unlimited power? It just doesn't work. It's a paradox. The court is saying that the limitation itself is a basic feature of the whole system. Okay, so this probably has you wondering, what is this basic structure? What are we actually talking about here? What are these core principles, these foundational pillars that are off limits? Well, let's break it down. Now, what's really interesting is that the Supreme Court has never released, a definitive final checklist. It's not like that. Instead, the whole concept has grown and evolved over the years, case by case. But some of the big ones that have been established are things like the supremacy of the Constitution, the idea that India is sovereign, democratic, and secular, its federal structure, an independent judiciary, free and fair elections, and of course, the very idea we've been talking about, Parliament's limited power to amend. And you can really see how this doctrine was built. piece by piece through these landmark cases. Kesavananda Bharati laid the foundation, right? Then the Indira Gandhi case added the pillar of free and fair elections. Minerva Mills put up the shield of judicial review. And even later, in '94, the S.R. Boehme case reinforced the importance of federalism and secularism. With every major challenge, the court added another layer of armor, protecting the Constitution's core. All right, so we've been deep in the weeds of legal history and constitutional law. But what does all this mean for the average person? Why should you care about this doctrine? Let's talk about the so what. At the end of the day, here's the bottom line. The Basic Structure Doctrine is like a constitutional safety valve. It's a failsafe. It makes sure that no matter how popular a government is, no matter how huge their majority in parliament might be, they can't just use that temporary power to tear down the very foundations of the country, things like democracy, justice, and individual freedom. It's what protects the long-term vision of the Constitution from the short-term pressures of politics. And all of this leaves us with a really deep question, one that doesn't have an easy answer. In a world that's always changing, who should get the final say on a nation's most fundamental principles? Should it be the elected representatives, the people who directly reflect the will of the voters? Or should it be the courts, the unelected guardians of the law? It's a fundamental tension, and it's something every democracy has to grapple with. So that's the incredible story of India's Basic Structure Doctrine. Hope you enjoyed this deep dive. If you found this interesting and want more explainers on the big ideas that shape our world, do us a favor and hit that like button. And definitely subscribe to Deep Dive Daily. Thanks for hanging out with us.